we'll spend about an hour and change with Tony O'Brien and Chris Fairchild here on Real Talk. Before we start, Keith, how you feeling over there?
I'm feeling good. At the moment, I am texting with Mr. Fairchild, so my Beam Me Up Scott is not working as well as it had in the past.
Well,
so he will join us here shortly.
That's the hope. If not, I'm sure we've got a lot to talk about.
We absolutely.
On one level, Tony, if he doesn't show up, this gives us a great opportunity to talk about him.
In a very public setting, which we are streaming to his personal Facebook page. Yeah. But you certainly can do that. All I'm going to say is I have nothing but love for Chris Fairchild.
That's right.
If you don't think he would do that to me, you would be...
I know he would do that to you. I know.
Sadly mistaken.
I don't think he would do that to me, so I'm just going to say I love Chris Fairchild.
There you go.
Judah, we can start the program when you're ready, sir. Guys, good Friday morning. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. We appreciate your viewership and listenership on the I Love Seaville Network. Today's program is going to be dynamite. Tony O'Brien's in the house, and when he joins us, we often have some quality content, entertaining content, educational content, and I think today is going to be very similar. Today's program brought to you by Yes Realty Partners and Keller Williams Alliance. We love Yes Realty Partners. Their principals, Keith and Jonas Smith in particular. They're charter members. Find them online at yesrealtypartners.com. Judah Wickower, if we can go to the studio camera and welcome Real Talk with Keith Smith on today's program, and Tony O'Brien, the supervisor. Good morning, my friends. How are you guys?
Very well. How about yourself today?
We're doing great. Doing great, aren't we, Keith?
We're doing outstanding. The smile on Mr. O'Brien's face has indicated that we may or may not be in the room, Mr. Fairchild.
The ring show can now begin.
And it looks like Supervisor Fairchild is fresh off a boating or fishing excursion of some kind. Welcome. Good morning, Chris.
Thank you.
So
Just keeping the sun off my skin.
Really?
It's not working very well.
Hold it.
Not working very well.
Oh, okay. We have this seasonal garb on Real Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Fairchild.
Yeah, sorry, I pulled up to the parking garage and a lady stepped out and said, "You'll never make it through." And I said, "I've been through plenty of times in this vehicle." She said, "With the kayak on top?" I went, "Oh my God." Look back at that bar was way.
You hit it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice job. So next time, listen to the lady when the lady
Very
is
nice
dead.
about
She loves you, Keith, that lady.
So you did park in there? Are you afraid about getting back out?
Yeah.
Or are you going to take the kayak down before you do
It's clearly in the loading
Well, on my
zone.
way back out.
I can see Chris sitting in the parking lot going like this.
Yeah. So if the kayak's still there when I get back, it's sitting out on the side of the
It's
road.
going to be hard to reach up and put your ticket in, from the kayak seat.
So I sent the two gentlemen a picture of my ringmaster of. I'll leave the remaining balance of the Sentence Out socks I have on. So we'll see.
It rhymes with ring show.
It rhymes with ring show. So gentlemen, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining Jerry and I. So we'll kick off like we normally do. We'll give you a chance to catch your breath. And Tony, introduce yourself to the few folks who don't know you and about your business. And
Sure.
what position you have on the board, and then we'll scoot over to Mr. Fairchild.
Great. Yeah, glad to be here again. Yeah, I'm Tony O'Brien. I'm the Flavanna Board Supervisor for the Rivanna District. I'm in my 9th year there. I serve on the TJPDC Commissioners Board as well too, and a few other boards in the area as well. My business is Helix Computer Systems. We proudly serve IT and network needs for businesses throughout Central Virginia. In fact, Chris is one of my customers, and I'm glad to have his partnership in that. And we've been doing that for almost 24 years now. So that's something that few small businesses can say, and I'm very proud of that, and very proud of my employees.
Yeah.
Chris, do you do his filters?
No, we talked about that last time. I still haven't gotten that email.
Yeah, I haven't got that email. I'm trying to hook you up here, man.
There
It
you
just
go.
doesn't seem to be something to be. So introduce yourself, Chris.
Chris Fairchild, and on the Fluvanna Board of Supervisors and supervisor of the Cunningham District, which goes from the edge of Lake Monticello, basically Route 53 over through Scottsville. And serving that after Don Weaver was in that position of 32 years and glad to carry on his legacy. And own National Filter Service, which is in Fluvanna County and has been for, I think, 32 years as of February. And good Lord's blessed us not only to have it, but to remain profitable through all the trials and tribulations the country's been through over the past few years.
So you actually created that whole industry, did you not?
Yeah, I mean, yes, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like to say it like that, but we were
But
the
it's the
first
truth,
one to
though,
do
isn't
that. Yeah, we were the first one to do that on the level that we did it.
So that's nationwide. So Little Fluvanna County has a nationwide company. And the reason why I'm kind of kicking this off a little bit, Tony and I were having a pre-production meeting before you flew in
Yeah.
and you spot there with your kayak on the top of your truck. You know, I think Fluvanna County, somewhere around 96% of its tax base is from businesses, and the sweet spot is 30%, which we've got quite a bit.
No,
You mean-
you mean 96% from residential.
Yeah.
Thank
Tax,
you.
residential
Residential.
taxes.
Yeah.
I had that
Property and
backwards.
personal property.
That was a
right?
test.
Now, that would have been good. I mean, if we did that, I
I was
mean,
going to let people talk.
shoot. I mean,
We'd be walking on water.
Yeah, we would be,
Yeah.
right, exactly. We
Well,
wouldn't
you
have any
wouldn't-
residents, but
I'm about
that's
to say,
okay.
you'd have nobody to work, but anyway. that's
I'm going to need 2 years on the board for that.
Only two. I'm surprised. But the reason I bring it up is Albemarle County is about ready to see a solar farm, right, go through the SUP process. And, you know, Fluvanna County and Nelson County in particular has been kind of a first for a lot of pretty cool things. Fiber being one, but we actually kind of beat the region with a solar farm because we've had one since 2018. I think, Tony, you were on the board at that time.
I
You want
was.
to talk a little bit about that process and how that went through?
Well, right, it's a special use permit, basically allowing agricultural use to change so that they have the solar panels in place. There are a lot of tax incentives, and really it's not something that produces a lot of revenue for the county from that standpoint, unlike other businesses. There's an initial job portion to it in laying out the panels and doing those items, but after the fact, there's very little maintenance from that standpoint. And unlike a lot of other businesses where there's some sort of maybe machinery or tool tax or property tax that's related to it, with solar, the solar subsidies that you have from the government, Fluvanna really doesn't benefit from that. I actually am very much in favor of solar panels in rural areas and think can provide a lot. I voted against that one. I'll tell you why.
Yeah, why is that?
Because it was located right in the Zion's Crossroads area, about 35 acres, if I recall. Maybe it was a little bit more, maybe 50 acres. And, you know, the county's made a lot of investments into that area to bring water to it. And I just felt that that was probably not the best use of that land in the long term. Sort of locked that land up for 35 years. And, of course, we want to see that land be used to attract businesses that generate revenue so that we can change that dynamic from 96% to, you know, something more.
But hasn't the state changed that law a little bit?
Right, they have recently changed it a little bit so that the counties can collect a little bit of revenue from that standpoint. You know, ultimately, it's the landowner's decision on that.
Sure.
You know, they're approached by the solar companies and asked if they would lease their land. And in a situation like that, there can be a real advantage, right? If you have land that's close to an area that you expect to grow, then that could be a good use of that land until that density arrives where you can take it to the next level.
Was that land in the growth area?
Yes. indeed,
Yeah, okay, I can see why you made
Right
it.
near the Better Living Park there.
Got it.
And we've had a couple of others since then as well, too. And
So I think this
Other places.
parcel that Albemarle County is looking at, it may or may not be, it's around the Scottsville area. But I just thought that was pretty interesting that we were kind of cutting edge. I did not realize you voted against it, so.
I think I was the only one who voted against
Well,
that
you're the only one that voted
Just
against.
because of the reasons that I stated, not
Yeah,
because
so
I'm
you
not in
wanted to
favor.
see it being a little bit higher revenue producing, tax revenue producing land.
No, that wasn't away from that in land that was not going to be potentially revenue producing for quite some time. So that's why I voted against that.
Well, I just wanted to kind of kick it off a little bit on the show a little bit because, you know, we tend to get, people kind of think Fluvanna County's a little this little backwood county, for lack of a better term, out on the periphery of Charlottesville. But there's a lot of things that we're doing way ahead of other folks, and I respect your vote, but I happen to think that we were a little bit on the cutting edge.
Oh, I don't disagree that we were, and I'm not arguing that point at all. I think it's, again, really good to have diversity in our energy.
What do you think,
products.
Mr. Fairchild?
First, I think we're not backwards, we're delightfully rural.
There you go.
Second, I spend a good bit of time
I
in...
like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Spent a good bit of time in Middlesex County, and Middlesex County is the last numbers I've seen is just under 11,000 people. Very rural county down near the Rappahannock, and there's a lot of it coming in there. And on one side,
A lot of,
solar,
yeah.
and one side of the discussion is to say, well, some of it's on some of the more major roads down there. You pass it, a lot of people are seeing it. And so you could talk about the clutter, and it's in fields where it used to be fields. The flip side is, as somebody said it to me, a 70-year-old farmer who's now retired from his day job, and he's reaching the point where the family farm, he doesn't want to keep investing that much work into it, and now he can get 3 times the revenue off that field that he was getting farming it.
And still live there.
And still live there.
Yeah.
And it's not homes and buildings. So you're still passing a farm. It might have this low-level, odd-looking coverage
Crop.
over it.
Crop?
But yeah, but it's not, to me, it's better than the alternative. I'd also say, a good friend of a couple of ours, Darren Coffey, is in the business of planning and so on throughout the country now. And he and I were talking about, I asked the question, should we be taxing that type of thing just because we can? And there's a municipality in Colorado that their board voted that they weren't going to tax it because they took the position of, that's a transaction between the homeowner and the business that does that. Why are we finding yet another way for us to get a piece of that pie? So I'm learning.
So
Real quickly on advances in the solar industry. First, the panels are becoming more and more efficient. I think it's Pescovite technology that's coming out real soon, and that's going to increase the production. And second, there now are farm layouts for solar panels where they actually are still generating crops underneath the solar panels. So you might end up with double production, both having the agricultural production and the solar production at the same time.
a shout out to Chris Henry, a project that I was part of over on Riverside Village. What they did is the parking areas. They did they covered the parking area with these solar panels, so you would park your vehicles underneath there, and the solar from those parking structures actually generate enough electricity for all the common areas within the subdivision and the lights and parking lights and within the building. So I thought that was a pretty unique thing. I think the reason I wanted to start off on that is we talk about land use all the time, and I drive past this all the time, and I've forgotten it was there. You don't see it from the road. But anyway, I
think that's great. To me, that's the best of scenarios.
Yeah. So I just picked a topic to start with, and maybe.
And by the way, I've had somebody pretty knowledgeable in that field tell me, and I don't know that this is true, but I've had others kind of confirm it, that without government subsidies, that it's not a net positive to do
I've heard that
solar.
as well.
Yeah.
So switch to, hey, what's going on in Fluvanna County, guys, right? Give us the skinny of the health of Fluvanna County. We're coming close to 50% of the year. So what can we report in? Tony?
Neil says hello to both you guys.
And hello, Neil, and thank you for that wonderful
Hello.
event last week. I hope everybody's doing fine.
It was a great event.
It really was.
Great event.
It really was.
So the 411 on Fluvanna. How about you, Tony?
Well, we had a board meeting just on Wednesday, and it was an exciting board meeting. We had a presentation on our master water and sewer plan that was, I thought, excellent. Laid a roadmap for the next 40 years. A lot of infrastructure still needs to be done in part of Fluvanna, but but overall presented some direction into how we might approach our water and sewer plan, and that's kind of a sign that Fluvanna is growing up, if you will, from that standpoint. We're making those investments, and they're starting to pay off. We then had some exciting news that I can't share, other than to say that in my 9 years on the board, it was one of the most dynamic meetings with regard to opportunities that are coming up into Fluvanna on the economic development side. So it was a great board meeting, and I think people are going to be happy about what's going on in Fluvanna and some of the new businesses that are going to be coming into the area.
I would ditto that and say that on the business front, across the county are opportunities.
Good point, across the county, right.
Really, just about in every sector that we hope for it to come. And I can't help but give big props to Jennifer Smuck, our county economic development director. And she is just truly a positive, hardworking person that I'm not just trying to give her props. When you see it in somebody, when you see what they're doing and their personality, and then you see the results of it, it's not a surprise. I'd also say that along with that, those great opportunities for economic development, I'm celebrating that we're getting more traction, in my opinion, on preserving our rural environment. And, we've had some subdivisions that fortunately have not come through and that were in the wrong places, a lot of us felt. And Lake Monticello as a whole, I forget the name of the organization that they've started, Lake Monticello being somewhere around 42% of Fluvanna's population, has even started a committee around having an opinion on growth around what I call the Lake Monticello Beltway. And to the extent that a business developer, and so wise to do so, has engaged Lake Monticello even before starting really with the county and said, we want to get your group
business
together.
development or land development?
Well, somebody's going to develop land for business purposes.
Got it. Cool.
On the Lake Monticello
Oh,
Beltway.
I'm familiar with this project.
Has first gone to Lake Monticello and said, we want your opinion.
That's a
and-
large parcel. That's around 30 acres.
30
Yeah,
something.
can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's out in the public. Gentleman is proposing building potentially a 24-hour emergency medical care facility, a grocery store, a second grocery store, which there's been a lot of call for, and then some
It'll be a
spaces.
third.
Uh,
A third, right? We have
Yes,
EWs in Palmyra, Food Lions, so this would be a third. Where is this parcel located?
it is,
Right across from Village Oaks,
yeah,
Got it.
on
It's-
Lake Monticello Road.
Got it.
yeah, on the right before you get down to Ace Hardware in that area.
Got it.
So, the developer is going about it well. He's engaging the community, especially or including Lake Monticello. Lake Monticello is, as an organization with elected officials buying into it with the right things being done by the developer, and that's how communities should work, and I embrace it all.
So are you seeing this as a positive development out there, Chris?
I see no reason at this point why I'd be against it. I mean, I understand concerns over, some concerns have been mentioned over light pollution. Well, the developer is talking about that they're going to be facing those lights down.
That's an
Every light will
education
be-
process. That world has changed so much.
Well,
on light
still
pollution.
the person whose house is in Lake Monticello backs up to it is going to
Yeah.
see those lights.
Sure.
Or across the street at Village Oaks, too.
Yeah. So there's some natural concerns. There's some concerns about buffering that the developer is helping with. And, it's economic development. That does generate revenue.
So it's interesting, we all know the general manager over at Food Lion, and that's the top producing food line of its size in the state of Virginia. And if all of us go through that, we know that you've got to time it at a certain time, otherwise you're waiting online for a period of time. So
Yeah.
a second food store around that area would be very
And
helpful.
also, importantly, I think when the Food Line came to the area, it was a real catalyst for the lake starting to grow. That was one of the major challenges, I think, for folks. Is
Yeah,
that there
somebody-
wasn't
Somebody-
industry and business around to do that.
Somebody bought a piece of property and developed something awfully close to it because the food line was coming.
Well,
Won't make
the
any-
argument on the other side is that it was a catalyst for the lake to grow. And with that type of thing, you got a lot more people that moved here and
Well, the lake
yin or
ultimately,
yang, egg, chicken or the egg, and
ultimately, the lake was going to grow, right? It
Yeah.
was eventually going to have 4,500 homes, right? Eventually, that
Yeah.
was going to get there, and
Right.
and eventually it was going to be 10 or 11,000 people, whatever the number is at this point. So that was going to happen. I mean, you've been there from day one. I've been there since '87. So we've both seen it grow from a couple of hundred houses, literally, to 4,400
yeah.
4,400 homes.
And I should mention, the only thing I meant in that is not so much about that development and what's around it, but more talking about the future. As we've talked about Zion's Crossroads and so on, understanding that business brings people.
Sure.
And the bubble,
It's
can
a
be
chicken
argued,
and
just
egg
keeps
kind of
getting bigger.
Sure. I mean, last time I checked, population's still growing in the United States, so.
Yeah.
You got to put people somewhere.
Brother, I hear North Carolina's wonderful this time of year. I would also say, outside of Lake Monticello on 53, it'll go in front of the board in June, is right behind Food Line, an office, some self-storage, and I've talked to a business owner who will also be putting his electrical business in there, and some, I'm going to vote for it as far as from what I see today. It's business.
And interesting with that, it'll do something that I was personally trying to do years ago. They'll make a connection from Nahor Village to Food Line. There'll be a side.
Not now. Oh, out front.
Out front.
On the road front,
On the
yes.
road front, so
yeah,
people
the road's
actually-
not now, those two.
But you'll be able to walk
Yeah.
along 53.
My understanding is that the current owner of that development is going to, at some point, once we likely put in a roundabout there at Food Line, there will be a bond done that will help ensure that that money gets paid then for the sidewalk.
So I'm hearing two. I'm in favor. How do you feel about it?
Oh, always in favor of business. I don't want to say always, but, to Chris's point, you weigh all the pluses and the minuses. I think that, one of the things that we often hear, it's a dichotomy, right? On the one hand, you have people saying, well, why isn't Fluvanna growing? Why don't we have these things? Why are we, at a 96% ratio of burden for the homeowners? And then on the other hand, you hear, well, how do we preserve the rural character? As Chris put it, the delightfully rural
I wrote that
aspects
down,
of our
by the
county.
way.
That was nice.
I wrote that down
Yeah.
with a note to self.
And solar panels harvest sunshine, I'll just say that too. If we're going to go for those things.
There you go.
Just trying to lighten them. No pun intended.
I get
It's
it.
getting a little hot
Yeah.
right now, but no. In all seriousness, this is exciting news. This is Jennifer Schmeck has done a good job, but it also falls to the vision of the board and the investments that we've been making. We are putting an industrial park out in Fork Union, a Commerce Park. We just named that Fork Union Business Park. No, Fork Union Commerce Park. I think we deferred.
I
to
forget
Roselle
it was
on that.
commerce or business.
So it was a real debate.
It's one of those that you find yourself debating on, and then you finally go, what are we doing?
Well, let me tell you something. If you ever want to see a developer's head explode, say, name a subdivision.
Name the street.
Name the street.
Yeah, really.
You'll end up having a head of hair like you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we made a decision at the board level a couple of years ago to take a parcel behind the Fork Union Community Center. We bought some additional parcels, the county did, so that it's of the size that's attractive for Commerce Park. And we did the site survey work and the initial work to get to stage 3, which is really important when you're talking about companies that are looking for sizable buildings, if you would, and sizable parcels in order to do those things. And you get the support from the CVPAD, Central Virginia Economic, programs that are there from the governor's office. And so that, that's an investment. The counties take a bet on that and say, is this going to work or not? You're seeing, of course, Louisa County doing the same thing with the Shannon Hill project that they have going down there, and that's a regional project as well. It's a long slog sometimes to get to this point, but as I mentioned, it was one of the most exciting meetings that I had, and rewarding in the sense that I think the board and county staff and a lot of members in the community that have been encouraging that we grow up from that standpoint can look to it and say, hey, finally something is actually happening here.
I wasn't going to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up. I had thinking on the way in to
Which one are you not going to bring up?
I'm not going to bring up the phone call I had that you and I talked
Okay,
on the
okay.
on the pre.
I'm
the
game
other
for
one.
anything.
Pardon?
I'm game for anything.
Yeah. That's what we've heard. Apparently kayaking too. Game for that. So Lake Monticello active. There's 15 homes for sale right now. Cheapest one is $225, going up to $549. And actually, there's really only 9 homes for sale because the rest are incoming soon. They haven't actually hit the market yet. Sold year to date at Lake Monticello was 98, and the median sales price is 313. The reason I set this up a little bit, I sit on a land trust. I chair it. We're advertising. We were able to get $625,000 from Albemarle County. We're partnering with Stanley Martin, and we're building 12 townhomes at 215. So I was driving in, and I was thinking, am I really making a difference? Right? I got a phone call from a Fluvanna County teacher in tears. Just lost her husband a couple of years ago. Her landlord is selling her house. She has no place to go. I'm trying to get her into one of these homes, and she may or may not work. But it says, I've got to leave Fluvanna County because I can't afford anymore. I can't afford to live here. I can't afford to teach here. And I'll probably have to leave the state. What can you do to help me? And literally, I'm a little emotional about it because she was crying. She was on the phone. I was trying to help, and I'm going to do my best to help her here. But what are we going to do? We're talked about business. That's great. But what are we going to do to keep this young woman and her child in our county? Because she can't afford $225. She can afford $215 with the program that we have set up. How can we get there, guys?
Well, in a correlation to what you're saying too is that if you're a landlord and the value of the properties that you're buying are higher, then you're going to charge correlating higher rent as well too. So it's not just the fact that there are too few houses to sell in Fluvanna, but also the fact that there's not affordable rents that can be had easily. I mean, some people will say $1,000 is affordable. Some people will say $3,000.
So I get away from affordable housing and
I just mentioned the term affordable.
And I use housing affordability.
Right.
I've interchanged.
But he's just talking about for her. No matter how you term it, she's
all
looking for-
relative.
It's all relative, right, exactly. And one of the ways that we addressed it recently was that we are going to have an apartment complex of about 175 units at Colonial Circle, a project that
125.
you worked on. 125, thank you. And that is targeted for, essentially affordable credits, which will allow a one bedroom to be, I think, around the $800, $900 mark, and 3 bedroom up to about $1,200. So that's a mix that, in my opinion, Fluvanna needs in order to solve some of those problems. I've always felt that it's a sad day when you have a long-term Fluvanna or Lake Monticello resident, but in a way, in particular to Lake Monticello, because we've had a demographic that moved to the area at the very beginning. They've been living there 20, 30 years after they've retired. Now they're aging out of their homes, and they want to stay in the community, but there's really no place for them to stay because we don't have that kind of diversity in terms of where you can live. I mean, we do have some 55 and over communities with some townhomes in place, but I think the percentage of townhomes in relationship to the total houses that we have is less than like 1%, 2%,
it's
something like that.
No,
So,
it's like a fraction of 1%.
yeah, it is a fraction. And unfortunately, the board turned down another, affordable living, in my opinion, unfortunate. But we certainly had a lot of residents that were upset about where it was going to be, and I understand that these things happen. But, these are the types of tough decisions that boards have to tackle and ultimately say, we're not going to make everybody happy in every situation, but we have to look out for the needs of the residents in its entirety and not just for that little area that's going to be affected. As they say in the industry, NIMBY is always around, not in my backyard, but please put it in somebody else's backyard.
I know you want to jump in. I just want to repeat.
A lot of comments coming in too.
Repeat the rules here, right? No divisive politics, no pointing fingers. So all I'm trying to throw out there is how can we collectively help this young person, right, and move forward so that
It's got to be tax relief, right?
Well, I'll let Chris jump in and I'll give an opinion on that.
First, I'll go to, and this is good conversation. NIMBY, everybody calls somebody a NIMBY until it's in their backyard. Yeah, the Tenaska Power Plant, a lot of people said, well, that's a price those people have to pay that have that around their farms and homes, because it lowers our taxes and so on. And I say, well, let somebody put a plant on the property beside your house. There's a green sludge that, it's just a little bit that comes over off of it. And good news is it only glows at night. That's the only time you see it. And that's a little bit of what you got to pay for us all to be in.
Is this a hypothetical situation, Tony?
Yes.
There is no green sludge coming from the Tenaska building, just to be clear.
But we've sat on my front porch that I'm a substantial distance away from it, and you can see the
You can see
quote
this,
unquote
the vapor.
The vapor. It's not
because
smoke.
it is not smoke. It is
I'm sorry.
But you can see it.
It's a natural gas
And it's so there are, point is, there are impacts that people call NIMBYs until it is in their backyard. And it's not just that little area where Colonial Circle is. Most of Fork Union's traffic going into Charlottesville every day is coming up 619, hitting 53, and going into Charlottesville. So from the Fluvanna County line at Colonial Circle to the end of 53, that's not NIMBYs. That's people from all over Fluvanna County.
18,000 cars a day go through that roundabout.
Yeah, and the road's not ever going to get any wider, and we just added, several hundred homes right there.
Well, that
So
that's calculated into that 18,000, fully built out. So that
people driving it don't know 18,000, 24, or 12.
Got it.
And so those things are a factor, and it's there, it's coming. But to having the 124 apartments that are going to be there, it is.
Look at you, huh?
Yeah, it is. There are needs out there. We are not in a crisis scenario in Fluvanna County. We've got a pretty low number of people who are a really low number of people who are at the poverty level. Yes, housing is high everywhere, every municipality pretty much in the country. And in every municipality in the country, that question is there. What do you do about this
But this is
teacher
not
and mother?
poverty.
Oh, no, I know. But point is, there's all these housing struggles of what we deal with and how to handle it. I don't know what the answer is. I do know that I don't believe the answer is to give a developer tax breaks from the county that costs the taxpayers that are already there around $1.3 million in taxes, not to mention the expenses that'll come from those 124 people or households, almost all of which will not be from Fluvanna County and that teacher or those people moving out of Lake Monticello.
How do you feel about?
That's to be proven, and I will note that the apartment complex that was recently turned down for senior living, there were no subsidies being paid by the county on that one, so that was not the case for that particular one. Chris wasn't on the board when we voted for the other one.
Yeah.
But
So to put a little context to your 124, and thank you, Chris, because as usual, you're right.
Thank you.
I just wanted to get
Hurts
that
you,
out.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Just wanted to get that out there on that. There will not be folks in that house for in those units for 2+ years from today.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got a long runway before there's product available for that buyer profile. Another interesting topic to throw out there, I think you guys have been tracking this, but you know that our area median income just jumped up to $111,000 for Fluvanna County. Now, this is the number that HUD uses for this 80%, this 50%, this 60% AMI. So that's a substantial jump. It's about, depending on the number of households.
$20,000 jump.
Roughly went from 90. It went from 93, I believe.
Oh, I
to
thought it was 80 something.
No, that was the year before. So it went from 93. But the way they break that down is by household size, single, 1, 2, 3. So that increase went between $6,000 and $9,000 year over year for that end, which is a double-edged sword. It's a good
Right.
thing because now that more people qualify. The bad side of it is there's nothing for them to acquire.
Right, 124 units out of 14 and 500 or so homes in the area. I think maybe 14,700 homes in the area. That's a fraction of the need, or a fraction of the total percentage.
How do you guys feel about tax relief based on citizens' income thresholds versus the tax relief for developers to create affordable housing? You talked about that already. How about the tax relief instead for citizens of the community tied to thresholds of income? Charlottesville, for example, expanded its tax relief program by widening the range of income that
Sure.
can fall under that program.
Sure, but let's also be kind of clear. I mean, when we talk about tax relief, homes in Charlottesville. What's the median price of a home in Charlottesville now? 500 something.
Yeah, it's north. Depends if it's detached or
Right.
attached, but substantially in the high fours.
And their tax rate is now what, 96, 97 cents, something like that. So-
96 cents.
Okay, so you're talking about, roughly $1. You're getting $5,000, from that home. That's a pretty big tax bite if you would look at it from that standpoint, and that adds to the cost of the housing, right? That's $400 a month from that standpoint. Fluvanna County's got a tax rate now of 86 cents. Is that right? Did we get it down to that, Chris?
Thank you, gentlemen, by the way.
Yeah.
87.
87 cents. Yeah, I thought I was pushing for 86.999.
Yeah.
But no, 87 cents, and that was the first time that I'd been on the board that, not due to equalization, the tax rate went down, and shows the progress again that we've been making. But the burden on the average homeowner, if you're at $300,000, is instead of $400 a month, it's $250 a month. So
there's a way.
My point that I'm trying to make is that that's not the total cost of owning that house. Interest rates just went from 3.5 to 5.5, right? That's part of the cost of new ownership. If you have low, we all understand macroeconomics, supply and demand. If you don't have the supply, and then the demand's going to push it up, and it's going to push the prices up, and so it's a scaling problem. It's not unique to Fluvanna. In fact,
It's everywhere.
I can't remember the name of the book, but this author, and I'll find it and give it to you guys later, but this author was basically, I think, from Columbia University, and saying that essentially we're facing a national housing crisis
For
because
sure.
of the way we do politics in counties.
Too much red tape. Too much red tape.
Well, but the red tape is also the decision-making in terms of how the land is used or isn't used, the balance of trying to have, growth that you'd like to have, and, not, as we often hear in Fluvanna is, well, we want businesses, but we don't want residents, right? I'm sorry. People have families. They want to come and they want to live in Fluvanna. People move from the north. Maybe they like North Carolina. Maybe they like Virginia. I don't know. But if there's not the demand there, then you're going to price out folks. A lot of people got priced out of New York. They're coming to Virginia. They might get priced out of Virginia and go to, Georgia or, wherever they.
We're working
A
on
lot of people getting priced out of Charlottesville, and they're coming to Fluvanna.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're coming to
Well,
Fluvanna,
there's
right.
where they're going to go.
Wherever we'll do the same to them, and then they'll go somewhere else.
So there's a way that we can.
On the record over here, I like it, Chris Fairchild. The director's laughing over here. The director is laughing.
Don't have the teacher call Chris.
To me,
I'm going to go. Here you go.
On the record.
If you're out there, call Chris.
I have a 2 + 2 always equals 4 mentality, and that's not a simple mentality. It is a simple way of thinking that when everybody around you is doing it and it is creating struggles, you can't be shocked when you see the same where you live.
So there's actually a way you can keep this teacher in the county. It goes back to what investment that the county wishes to make in the teacher or into these housing affordability buyers. It really comes down to that. So very lucky and fortunate. It took me a little bit of time, but I was able to petition the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors to give the land trust $625,000. We are going to put in by the end of this year 12 new construction homes with a relationship with Stanley Martin. That's $52,000 a unit. We're going to be selling them for $215,000, right? And they have to meet these certain income specifics. So if there was a plan somewhere in a budget, somehow that you guys would create this of some sort of a fund that you can give to a nonprofit that does this, I can walk in as a nonprofit and buy this 225 home, take $25,000 of this grant money, right, and then sell it for $200,000 to this young woman. Guess what? Now she stays in the county. Now she stays in the county. You just made a $25,000 investment in your county, in your people. And oh, by the way, that $25,000, because of the model, will give forever. So that next house will be sold to an affordable housing buyer. The next house will be sold to it. So there's a ways around that without tax incentives, but you've got to raise the capital to do it. And how are you going to do that?
So that was my question
Raise
for you.
the taxes, right?
Yeah, ask you where the money comes
no, how you're going to do that is what you guys are doing, right? Grow your business, right? So this is all connected, right? So you're growing your business income from 96, it goes to 90% residential. But at some point, you can do that, but it has to be an investment. So if this
So even if you
teacher leaves, who's going to fill her spot?
so even if you say you
Probably
got to
someone from Charlottesville or Albemarle.
yeah.
Right.
Even if you say you got
But
it
they're
from
not going to come. There's no place for them to live at that salary.
Well, she's leaving her house.
Yeah, they're opening up a
Oh,
rooftop.
no, she was renting. I'm sorry, you're.
She's renting. She will, if this
The
doesn't work
landlord is
out,
selling the
she's
house.
going
She
to
was
North
renting.
Carolina
Yeah.
or Georgia.
even if
Or
you
Chris's house.
Yeah. I don't have an extra bedroom.
Well, yeah,
but
you
e-
might want to rent it out.
Yeah.
No, you don't have an extra bedroom. He's got a charming cottage.
Yeah.
He's got a beautiful piece of land that he's developing, and
Thank you.
I've got a horse farm there. And
Yeah.
it's a
It's-
charming
it's small,
cottage.
thank you.
Put a lot of work into it.
Appreciate it. When you say you get it from business,
Or somewhere. You got to figure it
we
out.
just brought that. I mean, that is one example. Fluvanna's current residences are saying we need more business, so we pay less in taxes. So however you hash it, that's coming out of the taxpayers' pockets. We don't want to subsidize. An argument would be, why say we're going to use that money to subsidize bringing in other development when you have these taxpayers who currently live here going, why do you keep my taxes where they're at when I am suffering? Talking about the people who can't stay in their home or can't rent out there, and then we're just going to add additional burden to them by giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to some program
so this
instead of taking that off of what they pay in taxes.
So we have to figure it out as a team, right? Yeah. Right. We have to come together with a consensus to get there, so that that 625 was money that was collected over the years as proffers from developers in Albemarle County. Mm-hmm. So they paid into a fund, right? And then that money was taken out of that fund and given to us to produce. To the land trust to produce.
And I understand that, and it's okay that they did that, but instead of lowering taxes, that's what they did.
That's what. There is no, to quote a dear friend of mine, I've stole this. There's no silver bullet to this gentleman, right?
Yeah.
There's a silver buckshot, right? And part of the theme of today's show is to have this conversation, because we all come from very different perspectives on it, and try to figure out a way to get to some consensus, so we can help this teacher, right? None of us here do not want to help this teacher.
Of course.
Right?
Absolutely.
So how can we help this teacher? And, maybe this particular teacher we can't help because I think we just don't have enough runway to do it. But we've got to come up with a solution to keep this teacher in the county. And you guys are the smart folks behind the dais, and I'm reaching out for help.
How about this question from Neil Williamson for Chris and Tony? How would you guys define a housing crisis? What metrics are important to you guys?
You want to go first, Chris?
I'd say I couldn't tie a number to it. At some point, I'm going to look at where we're at and go, that feels like a crisis. As a decision maker who has to help the community, while at this point, my experiences with Fluvanna County and what our numbers are, And
Would you say it's a crisis now?
in Fluvanna?
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, the way I would define it is basically, traditionally the metric has been that you spend no more than 30% of your income on housing, right? Once you start spending more than 30% of your income on housing, then you're starting to drive people away. And the more that you drive people away and the less housing that you have available, the more the prices go up. So it's a little bit of a spiraling circle. We talk about inflation right now. Well, why does inflation exist? Well, you can say it's supply chain issues. You can say it's because people don't want to go back to labor, all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, there's inflation in housing. I mean, and that's made the average homeowner wealthy. But if you can't become a homeowner, then you don't have the same pathway to wealth that so many other people have, or so many. I don't want to say other people have, that we've had the benefit of having, right? Because if you're a young couple and the homes are now priced at $500,000-$600,000 and your income doesn't match it, based on the region that you're living in, you will never have that opportunity to own that home to build the wealth. And I think that ultimately creates a downward spiral for the middle class, if you would, from that standpoint. And that I just think is how I would define a housing crisis, is when you start seeing that spiral happen.
May I mention two things?
Yes, of course. That's what
One
this
is,
is for. Jump in.
while I know that people, life happens and life situations happen that we didn't account for, and then suddenly you're in it, and tragedy in many cases and so on, that puts you in a situation where it diverts you off course, and we certainly need to be there for those people. And this isn't to fly my flag, but God bless America, we live in a country where I believe on basic intelligence, you can go through life doing the right things, and you absolutely should be able to own a home. I don't know the scenario. Personally, I've seen a lot of people that came from very low means who didn't go out and, they didn't go start Tesla. They went to work and did well.
You're one of them. I'm one of them.
Yeah,
Tony's
we
one
all
of
are,
them.
but I mean, let's be honest too. Let's take school teachers as an example. She's a school teacher.
The deck is stacked against her right now.
Who sets her salary?
You guys do.
We do, because that's the money we give to schools. So if we don't give more money to schools so that she can afford to stay there, then guess what? She can't stay there. So, the old pull yourself up from your for your bootstraps argument. Bullcrap bootstraps argument doesn't fly when we're the people that are setting their salary, right? And guess what? There's an incentive, because people come out and say, hey, why did you raise your taxes so much? Why did you do that? Well, you're making me pay more. Well, I did that because I want this teacher to have an opportunity.
So this was a specific conversation
right?
with a specific individual. I can tell you, I have it across the board. Everybody who's working from Bodos or to whatever, and I want to get to the Bodos question here in a little while from you guys.
Have you guys been following that?
I think we get one.
Just a little bit.
Just saying, hey, out there.
The union topic? Is that
I want to tackle
we'll throw it
that.
to these guys. Do you think we have a housing crisis in Fluvanna?
No, we have a housing crisis in the United States.
Do you think there's one in Fluvanna?
So I'm pretty sure Fluvanna County is in the United
So
States.
that's a yes.
So
It's a roundabout yes.
So
That's a politician.
That's a politician yes, right
oh,
there.
that's right.
Yeah.
Hold it.
But it's really only in Lake Monticello.
Maybe yes or maybe no. Well, no. It's
I'm kidding.
Fluvanna County has 24 units for sale at the moment. The cheapest is 162, which is great, but that jumps from 162 to 300,000 with only after 4 units, 4 homes. The median sales price and the year to date is 375.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
To Tony's, I never liked the word crisis, period, right? Because it's like affordable housing. You can interpret the term crisis in many different ways. We definitively have a housing struggle, right? People are struggling, trying to find homes. Inflation is getting worse. Rent is going through the roof. What the real takeaway from this phone call that I had with this young lady, other than the tears that her and I were crying as we were driving down the road, which was just emotional, super emotional for me, on that end of it is what Jerry and I have been talking about for quite some time. You're now going to start seeing the single-family rental homes go into the sale market. That's starting to creep its way back into it. So this situation of, hey, I'm renting my house to Chris, and I'm going to say, hey, Chris, lease is ending, I'm going to sell the house because I can put 50 grand extra in my pocket. That's God bless America, and that's what's going to happen.
The single-family rental homes going into the for-sale market's not a bad thing, though. It's going to open up inventory
It
for
opens
folks
up-
to buy.
it opens up
It does
inventory.
marginalize the working class,
Well,
housing-wise.
it's price point. To Tony's point, 30% is an old number. If you really dig into it, it's closer to 50% these days.
Yeah.
Is the
Well,
number that.
But that goes back to my point,
30%
which
is
is
light.
Okay,
Very
so
light.
Yeah.
that's the traditional model. So if it's 50% and 15% of your salary goes to taxes, for somebody in that situation. Well, the rich don't pay anything, right? Right now, I'm just kidding. We pay plenty.
Yeah, I'm watching the TV over there.
Right.
Focus.
We pay plenty, but you got 15.
your tax returns
15
don't
to
tell
20.
you.
So you're at 50% for housing. You're at 15 to 20% for taxes. Okay, what does that leave? That leaves 30%. Well, what about food? What about education? What about your car payment? And what about savings? Because the next big crisis that we're going to have in this country is retirement crisis, and the retirement crisis is going to be a lot of seniors that
There's
do
people
not
living
save their
living
money,
longer than.
right? And if you took away the one fundamental thing, keep in mind the one asset that most retirees have and the way they built wealth was their home.
So
Yeah. So I mean, this is not a good thing, guys. This is bad.
So I call it, and I stole this from Dan Rosenzweig, the ladder of housing, right? So an example, again, the land trust, and I'm the chairman of it, so I'm supposed to promote it, right? That's what I'm supposed to do. But I also believe
You
in
do
it.
a good job of that.
I also believe in it, right? So talking about helping a young couple, we just it was a project in Charlottesville. We sold it 2 years ago. They resold it. They walked away with $40,000 cash out of the pocket, which they would never have done in in 2 years. A lot of that has to do with the crazy market, right? In 2 years, and bought a market rate house. It worked. They lived in it. They received $40,000. They bought a market rate house, and then an affordable housing buyer slid into that because that house has to always be that way, and it constantly gives. So I'm going back to my plug of $25,000 or whatever the number is. It'll constantly give. And we've got to figure out a way to address this. This housing struggle, whatever the heck you want to call it, isn't going away. Right.
A lot's going to change. Talk about crisis. Look what we just went through as a country. And that on top of what we expected it would do to the financial world, and it didn't, it only grew. And there's a bubble coming, in my opinion. This is a period of time.
You're talking
That's-
housing bubble? You think it's
Economy, everything. There's a bubble that we've just been through that's in the process of bursting. And so I don't want to be overreactionary to something that might not have been the case in 2019, because it's going to correct itself so often as the economy does.
Let's back up a little bit. I mean, in 2012, 2008 was sort of the peak of the housing market right then.
You're going to make me twitch, aren't you?
I'm going to make you twitch, okay? And then 2012, we had, sort of the bottom, if you would, of the housing crisis, but it dragged out for a long time. You could buy a house in Fluvanna, and I bet you can look this up, Keith. You would know the answer to this, but my guess is that the median price wasn't $313, but
I
it was
just happen to
probably
have
about
an 11-year spreadsheet here.
$275, $280, something like that.
What year do you want to pick?
Pick 2008.
I'm sorry, I only go back to 2011, so you're going to have to pick
Okay,
2011.
what's 2011?
2011, 238.
238. Okay, so that was the median price, and that was in the middle of the housing crisis because properties has dropped. I know this for a fact because I bought 4 properties during that period of time, and I basically bought those properties for less than 50% of what they sold. Those properties are now just above, maybe $30,000, $40,000 above what they were selling for when I bought those properties. When the previous owner bought those properties and had to leave because they foreclosed on that property, right? So those properties, it's taken, to my point here, is it's taken 15 years almost to get those properties back to where they were before. And if we then go back to that point again, guess what? There is no wealth creation in housing at that point.
So this is
Well, I don't think we're going to go back to that point again, though.
No, but is there a bubble? Do we really expect to see housing in Fluvanna drop from 313,000 to
I don't think it's a
250,000?
housing bubble that we have here.
Right.
It could be an income bubble when it comes with what people are earning and what people are making.
well, there's a division bubble.
The division bubble, I'll
That's
give you
what there
that.
is.
I don't think it's a housing bubble.
That's what there is.
If I can just add, I want to go back to your question, Jerry, about if we should do income-based taxation. So,
Tax relief.
well,
Yeah.
tax relief. So that would be, to some people would say, well, good Lord, of course we should take care of people who need it. And that sounds and feels good. I also look at it, and back to the last time we were on the show, talking about how many people aren't working, how many businesses can't get people to show up. So should I be giving tax relief to people who won't put in 8 hours a day?
Well, we're going to talk about this a little bit later because Bodo's is at $17 an hour, and there's a petition to unionize it.
Yeah.
And
Average Bodo's employee on the corner is making $17 an hour,
Well, and-
which is what, roughly, I'd say that's probably like
Yeah.
$38,000 right there. And we're talking someone that is in, quick serve restaurant, cashier, bagging the bagels in the bag, filling drinks.
I want to.
That's not a bad pay.
Not at all.
But this is a real thing. I mean, in
Plus
your
pennies.
business, Chris, for example, I mean, you have contracts that you have in place with your customers. Those are typically fixed contracts. You have only so much wiggle room in which to increase the price to them. And yet you have a labor crisis that's affecting you, so that sometimes you're on the road doing what your employees are doing, and that's tough, right? So, this labor increase, if you would, in terms of wages, is impacting business owners as well too. So, yes, there are jobs out there to be had, but maybe part of the reason that people aren't getting those jobs is because they'd rather work at Bodo's than travel around the country doing what you're doing.
So where are they all working right now? Because they're not at the, if they'd rather be at Bodo's, and they're not, because everybody's looking for employees.
Right, but
Are they saying I'd rather not for that amount of money and I'm staying
but
home?
your contention is that there are a lot of people just doing nothing at home right now. The fact of the matter is that unemployment rate is like 3.5%. It's one of the
but
historical
And
lows.
the stimulus money is gone as well. He's made the point multiple times on the show, Judah, that the millennial and younger, a good portion, has just changed their priorities and is not so materialistic as they've been in the past, and they're essentially living life with less.
I had a conversation with a potential
That's a good
buyer yesterday that she said she doesn't like to work anything more than 30 hours a week. And I was like,
Right.
are you kidding me?
I say, sister, if that works for you, great.
And literally, that's what I said. But then don't complain.
Take care of business yourself.
Well, I work 80 hours a week just because I'm slow, and it takes me 80
Right, me
hours
too.
to get through all that.
Is that all you work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
We
all-
all do at this table.
That's
We're
all,
also
that's all I,
fortunate
that's
to
all I
really
work.
enjoy what we
But
do.
that's not because I'm smart. It's just because I'm a little slow, and
That's
it
not
takes me
true.
longer to do that.
That's not true.
But hey, I like to quote this stat all the time, and I want to throw it out to you guys because this is a house. I'm in the housing thing. We're going to talk about housing a little bit here. Dr. Lisa Steravant, who's the PhD for the Virginia Housing, is our chief economist. Thank you.
For VAR.
VAR, Virginia Association of Realtors. In Virginia, our second industry, our largest GDP is housing. First is government, by the way. Second is housing. So one of the reasons when this bubble popped in 2008 through the time of great unpleasantness, the reason it impacted all of us, because it impacted the second largest producer of revenue within the state.
You sure about that?
That's
You're saying construction is the second
no,
largest?
housing.
Or housing?
Everything that's
associated.
That's all the supply chain of housing.
Yeah.
So it's like
Everything's in a
remodeling,
supply.
Closing, banking,
It used to be
financing.
tourism and
appliances.
agriculture. So both of those have gone away?
It's that is
Not gonna wait.
as recent as a few months ago. Now that's quoting her.
Government contracting
One.
one, the whole supply chain of real estate two,
Yeah.
which is a massive supply chain.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring that up is to go to keeping it 2 + 2 = 4. Part of our crisis is when the time of unpleasantness happened, we went from producing 2 million units a year to literally zero, and we're, as we stand today, 4 million homes short just to balance out, to hit par. So this is just math, right? This is going to keep pressure on housing. We'll always keep pressure on housing. Only thing that's going to happen is the buyer pool is just going to just kind of level out a little bit, but the inventory, which I'm not supposed to use that word, by the way, the new homes are not going to grow. So somehow or another, gentlemen, we got to figure out a way to take care of this teacher.
A lot of Fluvanna residents commenting on the show right now, Alexander Eisman has a lot of positive praise for you. Chris Farley says, as a Fluvanna resident, I enjoy when you have these two on the show. It's great to hear the topics discussed from two very different perspectives, but respected perspectives. Becca Cotton, watching the program, she has comments which I will get to. Middle class as in teachers, teachers who are well educated, single by choice, and paid competitively, but still cannot find 30% housing that is affordable in the city, county in which they teach, the place they want to live. And she highlights the very difficult nature of that. Danny O'Day has this comment. He's, I believe, tried to purchase in Fluvanna County with his fiance or serious girlfriend who is a teacher. He says this, isn't focusing on those who did do it an example of survivorship bias? For everyone who does get to own a home by making smart decisions, how many more have missed the mark while also making smart decisions? Tony is making a great point about teachers relative to other college graduates. Teachers in Virginia are the worst paid in America. They carry the debt of grad degree and don't get the pay to cover the cost. And oftentimes it's elected officials setting their pay structures, which is the point you
Elected
made.
officials setting their pay structure, unless
Yeah.
you work for a private school, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Elected, yeah.
So put context to that, Yvonne, my daughter.
And congratulations to Danny and his fiance as well, too. Just want to point that out there. And nice to hear from all those folks, know many of them.
So Yvonne is a teacher in Seattle, and frankly, by our standards, makes a substantial amount of money, but not enough money because
In Seattle.
your entry level one-bedroom bungalow is $800,000, $1 million out at that level. So look,
Can I just
Yeah,
quickly,
sure,
since
absolutely.
he took the time to
Yep.
mention Fluvanna citizens, I don't think it's, I forget the term that was used, but
Survivorship bias.
no, yeah. I'm not even completely sure what that means, but I think I'm grasping it.
Just means I got mine, so you can get yours, basically.
That's
I think
basically what it
translates,
is.
Yeah.
That's a good,
Yeah.
well said.
I don't think believing in the American way and the possibilities of being in America is that. And so there's, to recognize what the massive opportunity is in Fluvanna and the U.S. is not saying that's all there is and that's forgetting about the rest. I mean, they're both factors that we all deal with.
Yeah, I mean, look, if everybody was a business owner, we wouldn't have employees, right? I mean, we'd all be business owners, at that point in time. But the reality is that's not the way the economy runs. You have some people that are business owners, and then you have some people that are employees. You have some people that, are sick. You have some people that aren't educated. You have some people that made bad choices. You have had some people that had bad luck. I mean, we don't, you have some people with disability. You have people with mental illness. It's the gamut. You have, mothers that are taking care of their kids and taking care of their parents at the same time. You have a struggle to survive in the world, and some of us are very lucky and we don't struggle as hard as others. But that doesn't mean that we should artificially create by withholding inventory or by withholding building and making smart but important decisions to grow our communities to allow people to buy houses that aren't costing them 50% of their income. Because in the long run, that's a losing proposition for the county.
Kevin says, you guys own Pleasant Grove. Why not build on the road frontage for affordable units only?
Actually, right across the street from Pleasant Grove, that piece of property just came up for sale.
yeah, but it
And,
won't happen.
But again, the Board of Supervisors need to
No,
approve
no,
it.
no.
And there's also currently there's no infrastructure
There you go.
to put in the housing for that because and I don't even think that qualifies as being inside the CPA zone. I have to look at it.
It is. I've looked at it.
You
It is
looked at
not.
yeah.
It is not.
So again, those are decisions that the board makes, right? Does the board put in an investment to bring, utilities to a particular area? Does the board provide the zoning for that area? Does the board have the growth area for it, right? Those are all components of it.
So in answer to
We
this
need-
question, I don't believe government should be, at least in the Fluvanna environment, building or subsidizing housing, but certainly not on government-owned land do I believe we should be building housing. Second, yeah, we're all entrepreneurs, and it could be said we're lucky. I think the average American is not lucky. It's not lucky enough to so-and-so. It doesn't come through luck. And the average American isn't the business owner, and they're not the person who's in poverty. The average American is somebody who's a hard worker, who makes good money at the job that they go to at UVA or the restaurant or so on every day.
So I've said this to you privately, I've said this to you publicly, I'll do it again. You were a big part of me getting through losing $17 million and everything that we had on that end of it, but it was because, put your head down and go to work. So I appreciate that.
Glad to be there.
Better, thank you. Better than anybody. But
I knew there was a but there.
There
There's
was
a but.
well, this is a serious topic, right? And this is the reason I wanted you two gentlemen here, because you come from a different perspectives on it, right? But the word crisis, whatever. But we have a thing in front of us that we need to try to help fix, and everybody has different opinions on it. And the only way I know how to do that is through collaboration, communication, and consensus, right?
And education.
Well,
And you could say that's communication.
I was trying to keep it at C's to keep myself simple.
Oh, I got you. Okay, the 3 C's, okay.
Curriculum.
Curriculum, there you
There
go.
you go.
Look at you. But, so that's the reason I wanted to have this conversation, right? We're not going to, at the tune of an hour and 15 minutes, go, oh, we just solved it.
Yeah.
But if we don't talk about it, right, and if we don't have open and honest discussion about Chris feels one way, Tony feels another way, and we figure out a way to get there, we're surely not doing anything. So that is, and I thank you gentlemen for doing this, because that's really where I wanted this conversation.
Neil says,
to go.
per regional housing needs assessment, it's 2015 data, 9,149 people live in Fluvanna and work outside the county.
Yeah.
9,149 people live
So
in
what's that
Fluvanna.
That's
percentage?
2015.
That's
so
2015.
That's gone up. So.
That's gone up a lot.
Yeah.
But that's an example. Sean O'Brien, is that family to you?
Yep, I'm guessing so, yeah,
Insti-
possibly.
Institutional buyers are often talked about as an additional stressor in the housing market. Are there measures the board is taking to keep homes in the hands of the average family? Institutional buyers, I would imagine he means like hedge funds like BlackRock.
Correct,
That are
correct.
getting into the
Yeah.
housing. I'm not saying that locally.
I can jump in on that.
Well,
that is,
real quickly, Sean just had his second baby, and congratulations to Sean.
oh, is it?
Amen.
2 congratulations.
Look
at you,
I'm a great uncle now.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
Very nice. Do you want to close with the Bodos topic? And Kevin says, I've lived in Fluvanna for 19 years. And he says, what else are you guys doing with that land besides mowing it? It costs $0 to do something with that piece of property. Neil says, absent a subsidy from someone, government, nonprofit institution, other new home buyers, AKA cash proffers, affordable housing does not happen. That's from More Housing Everywhere for Everyone, Neil Williamson.
Yeah, so
And by the way, Fluvanna doesn't have any proffers, to speak of, so that we wouldn't be
Well,
able to do that. So
do
we took a policy prior to, I guess maybe 2 years ago when the law changed. There was a lot of indecision around whether or not proffers were legal. Came back that they were not legal, and now they came back, the legislation passed it so that they are legal. But in general, Fluvanna has had a very modest approach towards proffers, and so therefore we do not have a large pool of proffers that we could do that with. So at the end of the day,
we
it
also
would be
don't
the
have an
government's
affordable
expense.
housing policy, right?
Well, we don't, and
And we've seen the proffer slush fund not work well with Charlottesville and Albemarle County.
Yeah,
As
so
developers basically are kicking cash to an account, and then we don't know what the jurisdiction is doing with that cash.
Right.
Not saying they're hiding it, but it's just certainly not going to what it was earmarked for.
that took a look there.
One real last interjection there. I don't know if the fellow was talking about the Pleasant Grove Park, but
Yes, that's right.
We've put in a frisbee golf course. We've got wonderful fields for soccer and baseball.
You got mountain biking there, right?
We've got mountain biking, horseback riding back there. We have farms that happen. Fairs that happen there, and
A school?
The newest thing
We
is
built a
gonna
school
be,
there.
yeah, the school's right next to it. We are going to be adding the administrative building for the county is going to go into that area.
We've got a brand
Not
new
in Pleasant
library,
Grove.
brand new sheriff's
We've got the library, we've
department
got the
there.
sheriff's department,
Yeah, all on
and
Pleasant Grove.
new this year, coming soon, we're going to have a spray park there for kids. So that's
So,
exciting.
do you remember when that hit the board and all that stuff all those
Oh, I do.
years ago?
Yeah.
And it was opposed that was almost concurrently with or either before or after the power plant. I can't remember which came
Before.
first. Was it before the power plant on that?
For sale for $1 million.
The county bought it from me. What a freaking bargain that purchase was.
And also need to add, we have a museum there, and we have gardens there that people can get, and we have a wonderful butterfly garden there as well, too.
Well,
And because of the open spaces, that's why we have Fluvanna County, or whatever we're calling it now, our fair every year, and all that parking accommodates that. And I just want to go, I know we need to go to Bodo's, but I want to go to your last point there about, working together, and that's why we're having a conversation. I am somebody who's never been known to not know what I believe. I mean, and I'm a devil's advocate by nature. If you tell me, I'm going to give you my opinion. It doesn't mean I don't think about it, though. And I do comprehend and think about these things, and will hereafter. And to what was said about this type of communication and having people who are different on the board, and I'm not plugging this, but it's where I learned it. I learned in the Sorensen Institute that I finally realized that if everybody, and this is years ago, I realized that if everybody thought like me, there's people who aren't going to be served. And so if I have a board that we all think the same, and boy, we're 5-0 on everything and so on, there's probably something that's getting
Yeah,
missed.
that's a really great point. And actually this morning I was listening to NPR, and they had a conversation there about, they were talking specifically about Georgia, but one of the things that we're also starting to see is that, essentially counties and or communities are being segmented by political opinion. And, they had 3 or 4 people that talked about, well, they weren't, happy with the Democrats, and so they were moving to the county next door, which was more heavily Republican from an example. So
That's always been the case,
But
Tony,
the challenge there is that, if we don't have communication, Chris and I don't agree on a lot of things, but we're friends and we're colleagues and we respect each other. But if we don't have that communication and we don't try to work to solve those problems together with a diversity of opinion, then we really are going to become more and more divided and more separate. And one of the things I love about America is that we really, for the most part, neighbor to neighbor, talking to each other, friends, not talking politics, not talking religion, we get along with each other. We care and we respect each other, and we have a great open spirit. And I just hate to see that go away as we try to pull ourselves away from each other for politics.
Stop calling each other poo-poo heads over something that's, that's the natural way, is to react and call somebody a name or make a negative statement about them when you're somebody who cares enough to get involved and have an opinion.
Exactly.
So we are on social media right now, right? And I love it. And this is working with Jerry is probably one of the best things I've ever done as far as business and communication.
Thank
Actually, Jerry told me that.
Thank you very much. I concur.
But
Raise the rate.
I've kept it the same. I've kept it the same over here for him.
Sorry, Keith, go ahead.
thanks. But this also is part of the problem too, right? To Tony's point, people, I was looking at Nextdoor or some whatever it was. People just get really nasty because I'm not
so nasty.
I'm not looking at you. There's a whole bunch of difference. I'm staring at your face and have to have a conversation with you. It becomes a very different dynamic and a very different conversation versus behind the text. But what I do want to kind of get to this Bodo's thing, because this came up on Wednesday, and I wanted to ask you two guys as elected officials. So there was it 3 elected officials, Jerry?
It was Delegate Sally Hudson and Councilors Michael Payne and Sina McGill at a press conference / friendly protest outside Bodo's on the corner. Staff surprising ownership with efforts to unionize and to utilize collective bargaining. So what I found, and you guys both know I'm very, what party do I align with? Party of common sense, very free market, small government type of guy. I was taken aback that a Virginia delegate, Sally Hudson, and I have respect for all these people, Councilor McGill and Councilor Payne, were leading the staff of a private business in a collective bargaining charge when the media was covering it. I don't see, this is my opinion, you guys don't have to agree, I'm not pointing fingers, I respect you too much. I got a bad taste when I saw elected officials intervening with private business and a staff trying to collective bargaining unionize against the ownership. That left a bad taste in my mouth.
So the question as two elected officials, forget about the topic, right? Forget about the unionization end of it. It clearly was not, something that's going to come before the board, right? This is a topic that would not come before the city council.
It's private sector.
It's private
Yeah.
sector. How do you guys feel about elected officials doing that?
It's private sector.
It's private sector.
Well, I think it's a tough challenge. I mean, look, as leaders in our community, our voice matters, and sometimes you stand up for the things that you believe in. I went on a Black Lives Matter protest, right? I believe that racial equality is important in our country. I don't believe in hate. Okay, I'm proud that I did that. Some people might say, "Hey, why did you do that?"
But did you do that as
I do that as a citizen.
As a
right?
citizen.
But
There's a
but
difference.
my point is only this: is that if it's near and dear to your heart, well, we also have our First Amendment right to be able to go out there and speak our minds. And so,
Oh, they have the right. Nobody's
I'm
debates
not
that.
taking that away, but I'm just saying I'm not going to criticize them for doing what they believed in. And that's just my answer to that. I'm not going to criticize.
But
them.
I've heard you say before, in certain situations, that you felt a governing body shouldn't be participating in something.
So the
And I'm going to just keep it vague. So you do believe that there are things that elected officials shouldn't be making a stand on. And in this particular case,
Right.
it's in the private sector.
Right, and this is a tricky one, right? Because it is one of those challenges, and from that standpoint, right? In the sense of what I've often said is these are not, Democrat or Republican issues. These are Fluvanna issues, right? I'm not in the business of deciding gun control in my county or abortion rights or any of those kinds of things, or unionization from that standpoint. That's not what I'm in the business of. I'm in the business of taking care of the needs of Fluvanna citizens. But that doesn't mean that, as a private citizen, I don't believe in certain things and I'm not going to stand for those. And, like it or not, we intervene in private business when we make decisions, whether the decision is to approve a housing development or not, whether the decision is to limit land use to this, we make those decisions. So
Tony,
we
I-
are
I-
often making
Tony,
decisions.
I-
in private
Land
business.
use is different than staff collective
I
bargaining.
understand. I'm just saying, that let's
Land-
be clear. We still are involved in how we affect private businesses, whether we're giving them subsidies to come to our county. All kinds of decisions happen from that standpoint. Now,
It's different.
Were those three I mean, I would find it a real problem if you had three members of the Board of Supervisors together in an event like that.
Well,
But
that's a
they-
public meeting then,
Right.
right?
Well, that's depends on the
Anything-
size.
any different
Depends on the
issue.
size. If you have a
Yeah.
quorum, right? But
anything
yeah.
more than two.
Two, is that what it is,
Yeah.
two?
Yeah,
Okay,
two.
right, stand corrected there.
So technically, there was only two city councils
So it
there.
wasn't a public
It
meeting.
was not a
Yeah.
public, but if Lloyd Snook was there.
It would have been.
It technically could have been that. So the question is, I know you well enough, Tony, because I've seen you do it. If you get up in some matter, it doesn't matter what it is, I'm here as Tony O'Brien, not here as, Board of Supervisor for Havana County. I'm speaking on my you've been at the 9/11 memorial services every year. You speak from a personal perspective. So the question is what was these three elected officials doing? Were they speaking on behalf of the elected body, or were they speaking on behalf of themselves? If they're speaking on behalf of themselves, then I don't have a problem with it. If they were speaking on the behalf of the elected body, then I have a problem with it.
Sure.
Would you disagree with that?
I'd say it's hard for the three of them to go there. Assume that none of them had a conversation before going there. Oh, gosh, man, you came too? I thought you were at the baseball game. No, they came there in a collective effort, I would assume.
Because they got name recognition.
No, because whatever the reason, they stood for something as people in government in order to affect it. And, of course they have the right to. Government there's nothing that keeps them from doing it. And I would just say that if you don't like it, vote and where you eat bagels and what you do on election day.
So I think to your point, where these three individuals went, the cameras went,
Yeah.
right? And where the cameras went, it became
Yeah.
News.
It
Sure.
became news.
Well,
I think
imagine a politician trying to get camera time.
go figure, huh?
Yeah.
I'm not even a politician, and I do it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know why I'm here.
I thought you you're here
I
for
thought
the-
we were just talking about real estate. Are we on camera?
I thought you'd be here for the bourbon across the way.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely for that. But look, gentlemen, I think we're way past our
You got a phone call, don't you?
I moved it,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
where we were trying to be.
but thank you.
Sure.
Always a pleasure.
You
Yeah.
guys are great, man.
So-
I love when you guys come
Have a
here.
great time.
I love these monthly sit-downs, and I just want to ask you back, please, and we're going to try to continue to move this conversation forward and see if we can come to some sort of consensus that we can help folks. That's all
Yeah.
I'm trying to shoot
Amen.
for.
That's what I'm here for.
And thank you
Fluvanna-
for all the comments out there.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even get to them all. Fluvanna, lucky to have all three guys. Keith
Oh.
Smith, Chris Fairchild, and
Thank you.
Tony O'Brien. This is Real Talk with Keith Smith on a Friday. You see what the show's all about. Long-form content on social media that comes from a positive lens. That's what we do here on Real Talk. Judah Wickhower is the director. I'm Jerry Miller. I Love Seville show is up in 53 minutes with your friend, Kerry Rock.
Oh, there you go.
Kerry Rock today. Great
Yeah,
guy.
Great guy. Please give him a shout out. I'm going to have a meeting there. I'm actually going to join him on Saturday.
The headstone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You're excited about that.
Yeah, I am excited. I'm excited about that. So I'm going to join him to clean some veterans' headstones on Memorial Day
wow,
weekend.
that's awesome.
Thank you for joining us, guys. We'll see you in about 50 minutes. Take
Thank
care.
you all.
Thank you.
Good work.
Are we
That
on?
was excellent. You're going to tell us some more?